CityWorks Expo is a collaborative, co-creative, and multidisciplinary idea exchange and festival conference that happens each fall in Roanoke, Virginia. By day, attendees are immersed in thought-provoking presentations, riveting performances, and engaging dialogue. By night, the conference continues with after-hours networking opportunities during street festivals, parties, and musical events. To learn more about Expo, visit cityworksexpo.com. Expo 2014 was made possible by these fine sponsors.
So I'm excited to be here in Roanoke and get a chance to talk to you about three of my favorite things: money, food, and fun. So we're going to start with money. I got this picture this morning from Brent's phone, by the way. This is that's Stella, those of you that know Stella. I don't think we are born with much knowledge about money. I think we pick that up along the way. And unfortunately, a lot of the information that we're given about money in our lives terrifies us and confuses us and worries us. And so we end up pretty funny about money. So when I got involved with the slow money movement, I began to learn very intimately about how funny people were about money. And it turns out that 50% of the people in the United States have no savings. They don't own a home. They might own a car, but they pretty much don't have any net worth per se. Now, the other 50% do. They have money in a checkbook. They have money in a money market fund. They have a portfolio. They do own a house. And I'm guessing that some of you are in that 50%. Now, that means that that money of yours that's not in your wallet, that you are not spending, somebody else is spending that money for you. Question is, on what? What's your money doing? Now, we don't usually want to know about this. And so when I bring this up to friends, they change the subject. They back away. It's like, Carol, look, I'm worried. I'm worried that if I lost all my money, I might have to live in a place like this. Now, that's actually the house that my husband and I bought 30 years ago when we moved to North Carolina. And it did look pretty rough, I have to admit. But we went on to fix it up, and I wish I had a picture of it now, but it looks a little different. I invite you all to come down and visit us. So most of us kind of run with the pack. We're terrified, we're afraid. We give our money to somebody else, and we say, here, manage this for me. I'm not smart enough. I'm too terrified. I'm not going to touch it. You do it for me. Then there are a few of us that don't do that. And we get this in our mind that we're going to take back control. We're going to reclaim control of our own money. What if you couldn't scare me about my money? What might I do? Well, it turns out there's an adorable restaurant in my town called Angelina's Kitchen. And Angelina and her husband opened it without very much money. And when they did a little expansion, I went in and I said, Angelina, how did you do that? What money did you use? I was a little worried, and it turned out, she said, well, we put it on our credit card. 18% interest, $6,000. She probably would be paying that off still today. This was 4 years ago. So I said, well, how about if I loaned you $3,000? And my friend Gary, that knows you as well, he loaned you $3,000. What if we did that at 2% for maybe a couple of years, 3 years? She said, well, that'd be great, So I took it out of some place where it was making, 0.1%. I don't really care. I'd have given it to her for 0% if she'd asked. And I loaned her the money, and of course, now, what's happened? It's 3 years later. I have my money back. I still have Angelina's Kitchen. This is from her restaurant. 70% of the food she sells comes from local farms. So that means that $6,000 also went into local farming, right? Sustainably grown farms. So we have our farmers are still in business because Angelina gives them business. I have Angelina, who I adore, still in my town, hasn't had to move on somewhere else. I mean, if we count it up here, it's kind of win, 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 win. So where is the risk in this? Why wouldn't we do this? Tucker and Mackenzie, the health department was going to shut them down if they didn't put these labels on their chicken right now. So somebody in town loaned them $500, and they paid her back in about 6 months. Jackie's story is wonderful. Jackie came to us when I first heard about this idea of slow money. A guy named Woody Tash came to town. He'd written a book called Inquiries into the Nature of Slow Money. I went and I heard him talk. And this was 4 years ago. And he said there'd been a lot of investing in the name of slow money, but people weren't directly making loans yet because they weren't really sure how to do that legally or something. I don't know. But don't tell me you can't do something that should be done. You know, and the three of us went out in the hall and said, well, we'll just do this. I mean, I'd loaned my niece $6,000 for her jewelry business, and she'd paid me back, and I'd helped somebody else. And Lyle had, my friend Lyle Estel, who wrote a book called Small as Possible about local economies, he'd loaned money to a carpenter. You know, we'd done this peer-to-peer lending, and we said, well, let's just do this. So he loaned Lynette $2,000 for a mixer for her bakery. I went over and loaned Angelina money, and we began. We launched this thing called Slow Money North Carolina, tiny little nonprofit run basically by me. And at one of our first meetings, Jackie, who's in the picture here, came, and she needed $40,000 to take her bakery business out of her house and put it into a shop. Well, we didn't have that kind of money. I mean, we'd just heard about this. But a few years later, she came back and said, you know, I got that money from something called the Support Center in North Carolina, a little higher interest, but she'd gotten the money. But she'd undersized her mixer. She needed a much larger mixer. So I said, well, okay, she lives in Raleigh. I didn't know anybody in Raleigh yet. And what I try to do is matchmake a person that lives in a community with someone that needs the money. So that's very much relationship lending. And so the person that loans Jackie money will also go buy her baked goods, right? That makes sense, right? And be a support for her. So, of course, I have this conversation with Jackie, and within minutes, a couple of days, I get a phone call from somebody in Raleigh that says, do you have anybody that would like a loan in Raleigh? I think, okay, Jackie, good for you. You pulled that off. But so she calls me then and said, a few more days later, she calls again and says, Carol, you're not going to believe this. I've found the perfect mixer. It's a Hobart mixer. It's the size I need. Everything is right about it. There's just one problem. It's in Miami. It's in Miami. We're in North Carolina. So I've never been to Miami, but my daughter had knee surgery, and it didn't go very well. And there's a clinic called the Arthritis Clinic or something like that in Miami. I said, Jackie, you're not going to believe this. I'm sitting in a motel with my daughter, Meg. I'm in Miami. Now, I mean, Jackie prays really hard. And I'm a law of attraction freak, and between the two of us, we pretty much get whatever we want all the time. So I went over and I looked at the mixer. It looked good to me. You know, what do I know about mixers? It was a great Italian couple. I'm Italian. I fished my hidden $100 bill out of my wallet. I gave them that as a down payment. And she wired them the money. They shipped her the mixer the next day. And Jackie is now making cakes in Apex, Sweet Cheeks Bakery. So what I love about this story and all of the stories like Collier and Mariah that wanted to start a tiny little urban garden, and all they needed was $2,000 to do that in Durham. The guy that loaned them the money is actually younger than they are by about 2 years. It's a bunch of young adults supporting each other to make this happen in Durham. What I love about it is this: when money is supposed to move for good reasons, if the intention is really good behind it, it just moves. You know, moving money is a piece of cake. Now, if I wanted to pick that up, move it over there, I would have to do that. But to get money to move, we just do that by wanting it. Aaron wanted this. Farmers market to go indoors, and so he got a loan from a local person who actually came to one of our slow money gatherings and said, "I've taken all my money out of the stock market. I've had it. And I need help knowing what to do with it." Aaron happened to be in the room at the time, and after the meeting was over, I introduced the two of them, and a loan got made. So this is not magic. This is not rocket science. This is just people being people together and supporting each other and helping each other. This is another one that's kind of fun. In North Carolina, we grow a lot of cotton. It's very conventional. But Eric Henry, that guy in the middle there in the bright green, he owns something called TS Designs, and he makes organic T-shirts. But not with organic cotton from North Carolina, unfortunately, except that he did manage to talk a farmer into growing 50 acres of organic cotton. And 2 years ago, we went into cotton. So we now had organic cotton, but the second it came off the field, it had to be purchased. We had to make that farmer whole. He needed $30,000 that day. Eric called me. He had about 10 days to get $30,000. Luckily, Eric has a lot of friends. I got on the phone to some of the folks in there that you see. And of course, I was in on that one because we're making history. You know, for $5,000, I can be part of a historical event. Why not? You know, I took it out of my equity line. Anyway, don't tell my husband, okay? So he's the one standing behind me there. Doesn't he look happy? He doesn't know. So we did that. So now we got collateral, right? So first I own cotton, then I own yarn, then I own fabric, then I own T-shirts, then I have my money back. So in a year I had got my money back. We did it again, and we did it again. We call ourselves the Cotton Club. So did I tell you this was about money? But did I mention this is also fun? This is so fun. This is a lender. People often ask me, who are these lenders? They're just ordinary people. This is a guy, Charlie, loaning to Ben, who's a beekeeper in Charlotte. Sometimes you can't tell the farmer from the lender from the borrower. One of those gals is a farmer. I don't remember which one. So people ask me, you know, how did you find everybody? Well, I threw up a WordPress website, and I taught myself how to do that. It wasn't that difficult. And I put a place on there where you can click if you want to be a borrower and click if you want to be a lender. Now, remember, I don't touch the money. I'm an escort service. You know, I just introduce people to each other. And I went out to farmers market, and I talked to farmers like Alvin, who is a retired botanist from Galveston and is now a farmer. I talked everywhere I could. I'm a complete bore at parties. That's kind of how I found some of the lenders. I mean, I talked to, oh wait, that's Muhammad Yunus. That's actually not me. Too bad. I wrote a book about it, and I have those for sale in the back if you'd like one later. And then we did a couple big ones. These were peer-to-peer lending, but we had a co-op in our town that had a loan from a bank in Virginia, about $400,000 at almost 9%. So I found 16 people to put in $25,000 each. We took that interest rate down to 5%. We took their monthly payment down from $7,500 to $5,000. And we saved that co-op that was struggling pretty much. So that loan there were 8 years left on it. We closed in November of 11. So this November, you know, that is clicking away. So pretty soon we'll all have gotten our money back in this lovely little co-op that changes my life every day. I love to go in there. Just brightens, you know, makes my day. You have a fabulous co-op here. I've driven by it a couple of times, and you know how important they are. Okay, so I mentioned the fun, and I mentioned the food, and I mentioned the money, but we got to have a little more fun here. So there is a music festival, and by the way, those of you that have been seeing these in the back, picking them up, this is about a music festival actually in North Carolina, but you could come. It's only about 2.5 hours away, 4 days, 4 stages, 50 bands. I helped run it, I helped start it, I now run the coffee barn there. It was on a 75-acre farm that the woman that owned it wanted to sell. She needed out. And so, you know, that would have gone to development. There was no question. We'd have lost that whole thing. 10 years of building something up would be gone. So I got on the phone, I got on email, I went everywhere I could, and I found 27 people in $10,000 increments. So some people put in 10, some 20, some 50, some 80, and we pooled our money. We raised $630,000. We formed another LLC, limited liability corporation, like we had done with the marketplace, and we basically, you're not really supposed to say this in the South, but we bought the farm. And we owned it for a fleeting second, and then we made a loan to 2 nonprofits that now run that festival. So what does that mean? That means that families can come out there and have a marvelous time from now to perpetuity. You can't take it away from us ever again. So it turns out that there are lots of ways that we can do community financing. This family in Asheville needed money to make more salsas and chips. But I didn't have anybody in Asheville. And then I heard about this fantastic new idea. It was actually one of the co-founders is right here in Roanoke, Brent Cochran. Is one of the co-founders of Community Source Capital, which actually launched in Seattle. But he's leading the charge here in Virginia, and I'm now going to lead the charge in North Carolina. So we've got a wonderful cheese company. Like Fifth Son, the one I just showed you, I didn't have a lender for them, but this is a way we can pool our resources. Think Kickstarter, but you get your money back. This is a community-sourced loan. So right now, for example, these guys are going to build a cheese cave. They make aged cheeses in North Carolina. You know how you buy manchego from Spain? Not anymore. We're going to have that level of cheese right here in North Carolina, and now they're going to add sheep, and they're going to farm. But they need our help. So this is the campaign that just launched on October 1st. You have permission now to go to your phones and go to Community Source Capital, and you buy a square. A square is worth $50. You can buy 10, you can buy 100. You can finish that loan right out right now if you want to. But anyway, it's basically we'll pool those squares. We'll get them to whatever they need. I think they're looking for $5,000 to $15,000. They'll get that loan, and as they pay back that loan, those of us that purchase squares will get our money back. So we're going to community source a loan. I think actually that the crowdfunding that's free, where you donate, that works really great for nonprofits and for cultural events. But I'm a business owner. One of the things I do is I own a business. It would be awkward for me in my community to ask my community to give me money to build another kiln or something, or build something, a piece of equipment for my business that I'm then going to make money on. So I really love this idea. Let's take a quick look at the numbers. We've done I've got about 140 lenders now. We've got about 101 loans out to 61 different food and farm businesses, as well as Shikori, and we're moving on now to other kinds of small businesses, and we're over $2 million. So in our community, we need each other. We need to build these relationships. We don't need to be sending our money out to faraway places where we have no control over it. We need to bring it home, take a risk. That's my time. Take a risk and make something happen. So quick review, you've got the peer-to-peer lending. You can do that any day of the week, all day long, perfectly legal, as long as you're a family or a friend. So after I matchmake, I say, are you friends? Just checking. Are you friends yet? And as long as they're friends, they can loan each other money. We've got the LLC. We've got Community Source Capital. You actually did one of those right here in Roanoke. Viva La Cupcake got money that way. You can do equity investing. We did a distillery that way, and you can do self-directed IRAs. So this is my favorite pin. It's pinned onto my pocketbook, and I look at it all the time. I really think that when we wake up in the morning, we don't just need food, clothing, and shelter. I believe that we also really want to make something happen. We want to go to bed at night knowing that we pushed on something and things went well because we were alive that day. So enjoy the day. Tomorrow when you get up with your money and make something happen. Thank you.